Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Simon. So, Simon, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Sure, yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Dan. So my name's Simon Gerstler, originally from London, now living in Israel, been in sales for getting on for 30 years now. And in my current format, I'm coaching tech companies and service companies on how to sell better and how to get their marketing materials across to the right audience.
Awesome. So how did you get the idea to start this company?
Well, I think it just came out of working in various other tech companies over time, seeing what worked, what didn't work, and ultimately about wanting to be my own boss at that stage of my life. So got to the stage where I didn't want to be working for other people and control my own destiny. So I got together with one of my co-founders at my previous tech company that was acquired, and we set up Pipe Global together. And yeah, it was just the right stage, the right time. I think I'd acquired the right skill set and knowledge by that time. So it just felt that all the stars were aligning at the same time.
Awesome. So when it comes to successfully selling technology products or just technology in general, what does that look like for you? I mean, obviously, there's SaaS products, there's products that are built out like on a one-time cost, like these large software projects. So where do you see your clients have the most success?
I mean, mainly they follow where the market is leading them, which is the SaaS products, repeat revenue, repeatable, scalable revenue, not like one-off sales where you're selling a technology for a large lump sum and then not getting any recurring revenues from it. So we're seeing most of our success with earlier stage companies who are battling to get their products to market and land those first 50 to 100 clients. And that was my own experience having co-founded other companies that were able to get across those hurdles.
Makes sense. When it comes to SaaS, I think a big challenge that many founders have is how much to charge, right? So how do you overcome that hurdle of like finding out the right price point and making sure that, obviously that you're profitable, but also that you're, being able to, provide a good value for your customer?
I think at the beginning, you want to, if anything, you want to underprice it because you want to land logos, get case studies. You also want to look at a little bit about what the competitors are doing. You don't always want to be copying them, but if you go into a space that's already got some industry players already, you just want to see where they're pricing it so you're not looking ridiculous compared to them. The pricing is always changing and evolving. So whatever we price the price at, in September 2023, it could be very different 6 months later, and it depends on the company stage, market forces, and also you might be more willing to compromise and say on pricing and say in a market like now where budgets are being cut and it's harder to get some new discretionary spend.
That makes sense. So in terms of, you mentioned, I mean, that's a good point, 100%, pricing under market value in the very beginning. But when it comes to like your prices go up, right? Do you typically recommend that your clients raise their prices on their, like on their first customers, or they keep the price the same as like an honorary sort of thing for being some of their first customers? Like, what do you recommend when they do raise their prices overall?
It's got to be done in a sensitive way. You also want to make sure you're not burning revenue, losing clients. I think generally from my own experience, those first 10, 20 clients who took a punt on the product and were almost placed their faith in you, I'll be more inclined to keep them on lower costing. Even if you're edging up the price, you're not necessarily putting them on the same rate card as everyone else. You're repaying their loyalty to you. And I think that can extend for a little bit of time as well. But the newer ones that come in and they've already got the case studies, they've seen that the product works, the ROI is clear at that stage, there's no reason why they shouldn't be paying a bit more. I've got no problem with slightly discretionary pricing where not everyone's paying the same based on when they came in and the size and stage of the company.
That makes sense. So obviously now there's a big debate, especially when it comes to SaaS, about, raising money or staying bootstrapped. What do you recommend for your clients?
It's a really difficult question. I mean, I think ultimately you want to stay in business. So bootstrap can work well if you're bringing revenue in, and obviously when it's harder to raise money, that is ideally you want to be able to self-fund and keep costs at a lower level and make sure that your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, is manageable. But you've also got to be sensible, and it's worth diluting if you're able to stay in business and ride out this storm, ready for when the markets recover, which they will.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm asking, obviously, your work with sales and marketing, it's what has been successful for you? Because obviously, there's certain avenues of, sales and marketing channels that do require money, right? If you're running paid ads or other methods like that, or do you usually go more towards the organic outreach, like cold email, cold calling? What has been successful for you and for your clients?
So, there's no one fits all solution, but generally we prefer it in an ideal world that there's good attention to the brand. So marketing is really supporting sales, that you're generating a good flow of either inbound leads or certainly not cold leads, but semi-warm leads where there's enough content going out in individual salespeople's name and in the company name that when you pick up the phone or approach someone, that there's no who the hell are you? Why are you calling me? What you got to offer? There's some sort of recognition there. So we try and steer our clients where possible to really work together on the sales side with marketing, make sure that they're fully aligned together and they're really supporting each other in order to generate warmer leads. Because as you know yourself, you can go to cold, but chances of closing a cold deal is much lower than if there's been that warmer introduction, there's that recognition of the company, the brand.
That makes sense. So what does that warmer introduction look like for you?
So the best way to do it is that the individual salespeople are representing the brand. They're posting it in their own name, they're commenting on industry trends, they're active in the groups, they're demonstrating credibility as a salesperson by showing industry knowledge. They're also showing that they understand the market, they understand the challenges as well, and that you don't really want that first approach to be just a completely cold outreach. So by the time I approach you, you've already maybe seen some of my content, you've maybe even interacted with it in the past, I've interacted with your content, and there's already a level of trust there where it doesn't feel quite as salesy, because again, sending that cold email or hitting someone up on LinkedIn 5 minutes after connecting with them, definitely a no-no in my book.
100%. So you mentioned earlier that you're in Israel, and obviously Israel is one of the biggest tech hubs in the world, right? So for you, is that where most of your clients are? Where are most of your clients located?
The world changed a lot during COVID, so it's much easier to not be in person. So during COVID, we worked with a bunch of UK, US companies as well, which has continued until this day. So I'd say probably more than often not, they are based in Israel. And obviously, if we're able to go and see them in person, that's great. But we've also always got a roster on our books of UK, US clients as well.
Awesome. So in terms of SaaS and just technology in general, what are some of the biggest trends you're seeing with your clients? Is it more in the AI space or other types of industries? What are you seeing that is really being successful right now in 2023?
Well, AI is the buzzword, but you've got to really dig a bit deeper. And it's very easy for companies to say, hey, we're using AI, but are they using their own proprietary AI? Is there something to it? Or is it just that they think that that's going to get people through the door? So it won't stand up the test of time if there's nothing really behind their claims. But ultimately, in this market, companies are succeeding, are showing a very, very clear ROI on their product. Because if you didn't spend the money last year, it's got to be a really strong business case to spend it now in this current climate. So companies that can show a really clear ROI via case studies, using data to support what their own claims, they're the ones that are still riding the crest of a high wave at the moment, whereas others who are more nice to have products are struggling, for want of a better word.
Makes sense. So can you just talk more about that? I think it's important for people to know what, when it comes to nice to have versus necessary, can you just talk more about what that actually means for a customer?
So nice to have it could be, I don't know, say an employee experience where you're arranging days out, or you're doing something that was important maybe 2 years ago in terms of staff retention. Now they're not even companies aren't even recruiting, and obviously they want to increase their staff morale and well-being, but it's something that can easily be cut when a CFO or finance person is looking at where they can save 20% of revenue. So anything like that would have flown a couple of years ago when companies were spending money left, right and center, they're struggling. And bear in mind as well, a lot of the tech companies are selling to each other. So you've got a vicious circle. The companies aren't raising money. They were dependent on maybe their first 10, 20, 50 deals from other tech companies, from their network, etc. Those deals are drying up. So unless there's a very clear business use case, then it's hard to close deals at the moment.
Makes sense. So can you talk more about your client profile? Obviously, you mentioned that, UK, US, Israel, but is there certain revenue metrics that you look at? Like, what would be an ideal client for you that you could really, somebody could step in and work with you and really see good results?
It's probably just between seed and Series A. So they've got some sort of market proof already. So we're not going in and literally landing the first deals. They might have sold to people they know in the industry or through their own professional and business networks. They've got some sort of case studies and proof of concept from that original bunch of clients, and they just need to build that repeatable sales playbook. So we're doing a lot of work around sales playbooks, a lot of work around hiring for companies. It's critical, as you know, those first 3, 4, 5 sales hires, you get them right. That could be the difference between winning and losing in not just this market, but any market. You've got to get those first hires right. So we've recruited hundreds of salespeople in our time. We know what to look for. We know what sort of playbook they should be following. So really, the earlier stage is a sweet spot for us, but we're also working with professional services companies who are big, like, law firms who are turning over hundreds of millions of dollars who still haven't got a sort of sales methodology. So the sorts of hacks, tricks that we're teaching can be replicated across very many different industries as well.
Awesome. So you mentioned, sales, having good sales folks, right? And I think that's very important. But I guess, would you say that is specific, or maybe something else is more specifically you've seen separates companies that are very successful that you've worked with ones that are not?
I think it's having like a sales DNA. So everything is supporting that sales funnel. You go to various companies where the product people, and don't get me wrong, product is vital. If you haven't got a product, you can't sell anything. When the product people are almost the crux of the company, everything revolves around them, and sales are almost an afterthought. And you've got companies where sales are the epicenter of everything that's done, and product needs to almost bow down to sales. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the right way, but everything is around how do we grow this? How do we increase our revenue? Every meeting in product is also about how can we monetize this particular aspect. So if you're just building a product, but without a sales DNA, a sales mindset, it becomes much harder to achieve those success metrics.
That makes sense. So do you feel like, founders should be involved in the sales process?
I do think they should be involved at the beginning, but they should also know when to bow out gracefully. You get companies where there's either someone at the beginning of the company, the founders are the best people to sell. They've got that passion, that vision. They should be able to sell. If the founder can't sell at that point, even if they're not natural salespeople, then you can have issues down the line, I think. But they also need to be able to, after those first 20, 30, 40 deals, which they brought in or helped bring in, they need to relatively quickly bow out and maybe just be pulled in to close big deals or for strategic accounts, and allow the company to build its own sales repeatable playbook and methodology. So I've seen companies where the founders sort of hang in there too long and they're almost a blocker. And I've also seen companies where the founder just doesn't want anything to do with sales, which isn't good either. So you need like a happy balance to show that it can be done, but also show that you're there on the sidelines if needed, but you're relying on your salespeople to grow the revenue.
Makes sense. So obviously, with what you're doing, it's a very crowded space. There's lots of people that are helping tech founders and tech companies. So what would you say separates you from your competition?
Well, I think the experience. So we've worked with 120, 130 companies now. I've been on the co-founding team of 2 companies that were acquired. So the last 2 companies that I was at were both acquired. So from first sale all the way through to acquisition. So it's not like a theory that we've actually been there and done that, got the t-shirt if you like. And then we were just prepared to take on maybe difficult cases that other companies maybe wouldn't have done because it would have made them put a failure onto their copybook. So we're prepared to, within reason, take on any client and see if we can improve them. So I think we've just worked in so many varied industries over time that we've built out that sort of IP of our own and our own methodology that we've been able to replicate very successfully across multiple industries.
That makes sense. What would you say is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before you started your career?
I think it's knowing when to focus, because there's so many during all of our careers. There's so many opportunities that we get, and it's very tempting to just be open to everything. And there is a school of thought that says, get an opportunity, go with it. But where I maybe struggled at some point in my career was having too many opportunities, saying yes to too many things, not being really forensic about what I could do best and what I was just doing just to make myself feel good that I had something else that I was doing as well. So having confidence to say no when something isn't a good fit, which we've got better at as a company as it happens. As I say, it's very tempting to just go with the flow and take on any piece of work and think we can do it.
Awesome. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your website or best way to get in contact?
Yeah, thanks for that, Dan. So first of all, on LinkedIn, it's Simon Gerstler, Gerstler. And I can confidently say that they will end up finding me because I'm the only Simon Gerstler on LinkedIn or anywhere in the world on any social network. So they'll find me Simon Gerstler, and our website, which is currently being upgraded. So pipe.global, PIPE .global.
Awesome. Well, Simon, thank you so much for your time. We're rooting for you. Hopefully you guys can help a lot more founders. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Appreciate your time as well.
All right. Bye.
Bye.